Yeah, you can make a lot of money with arbitrage betting still in 2026. My name is Ryan. I've made thousands of dollars from the bookmakers, and I currently own and operate alongside my best friend, WagerWise, where we teach people and give them the tools on how to make thousands of dollars from the sportsbook like we did many years ago. So getting back to arbitrage, people think the arbitrage is just the best thing in the whole world. I mean, why wouldn't you? It's completely and utterly risk-free. You place one bet, you place another one, and guess what? You've locked in profit no matter what. But it comes with a few drawbacks, right? And the biggest drawback in this day and age is longevity of your account. You think you can just go ahead and place $500 on an arb and have an infinite money glitch, but that is not the truth of arbitrage. It is a great strategy if you are careful and you're only placing $50 to $100. But at the end of the day, sportsbooks are businesses, and we have to understand that and treat them like one, and not just think that they are some predatory company. Whilst they are, they still obviously need to make money. They make money by people losing bets, but they also make money by restricting winners, right? It's a combination of the two. It's not just the one. They want to get rid of leakage from their business and attract good customers or losing bettors. So if you're an arbitrage bettor, they're not going to really like your business for very long unless you're really good at blending in. But most people aren't, because they don't have the skill set to be able to blend in very efficiently. So they just get restricted very easily, and then they've only really made a few $100s across the major Australian sports books. But if you do it properly, you can make a lot more. But if you want to make even more money, the best strategy is positive expected value. I made the bulk of my money from positive expected value and racing, which is also expected value betting, but you just use promotions. I suppose the biggest drawback I see with people trying to use positive expected value is like, I don't want to lose bets, okay? And that's understandable, but if you really want to go ahead and make the most money possible, you have to be okay with a little bit of risk. Manage risk, but still a little bit of risk. Contrast, arbitrage has no risk, but expected value has risk in the short term. And sometimes it can take a few thousand bets for profit to come to realization, especially if you're targeting the higher odds bet. There's ways to go ahead and manage your risk, so no matter what, you can still be profitable in your betting, even in the short term. Like, ideally, you want to be profitable in the first 100. You may not be, but you want to be. And the way to do that is focus on lower odds bets rather than chasing the higher EV, the higher odds, which generally come from the major leagues. And major leagues are good for sustainability rather than betting on something like Division 3 Argentina soccer. You don't really want to do that if you want to make the most money physically possible in sports betting. What is positive expected value? It's very simple. You're just getting better odds than what the fair probability suggests. So there's a number of reasons why bookmakers will give us positive expected value opportunities. They're late to news. They just got their model wrong. And I mean, the model wrong one is probably the most common and the most reliable. You won't get the best expected value, but you will get a lot more opportunities consistently, because it's advantageous for bookmakers to have different odds to each other, because when they do that, they have this competitive advantage. And especially in this day and age, when the Australian market in particular is really saturated by a lot of bookmakers, if, say, Sportsbet can differentiate themselves from Ladbrokes with different odds, they attract a different kind of clientele, and they're seen as different, a completely different business, and they are in a more advantageous position. So they're not going to go and blatantly copy each other. Because of that, they're deriving their odds from different methods. Whilst they're going to be similar, there is going to be difference. So this is where we can derive expected value opportunities from mostly, right? And the expected value opportunities will come from when a bookmaker is just mispriced compared to the rest of the market. Our WagerWise scraper, we take a collection of bookmaker odds from around the globe. And let's say if one in particular, I've been using Sportsbet, so I'll use that again. If they're above the rest of the market from across the globe, there is a fair indication that that is positive expected value. While it may not be positive expected value when the event actually starts, there's nothing you can do about that, because once you've locked it in, you are in for it. And it's in the same way of like a traditional punter might get on something that's negative expected value, but by the time the event starts, it is positive expected value. Generally, they will be positive expected value most of the time, because there is a distance in odds and they don't shuffle around that much, especially within about 3 days from the start. So now we know what positive expected value is and where it comes from. The best kind of principles when you're starting is you want to remain under a fair odds of about 4. If you're really risk adverse, you can go under about 3, but 4 is okay, because about 25% of the time you're going to get a winner statistically, and that's really all you need to be profitable. When I talk about odds moving and a traditional punter getting a positive expected value, that does happen, but if you bet with the EV over about 0.5, most likely you're always going to remain with positive expected value. You're not going to get a huge amount of difference. You will get maybe a percent move, but it's really luck of the draw, because it might go up, it might go down. The other principles that you should follow is not betting on multiple different lines on the same game, because it increases variance. And variance is just the short terms up and downs. In the same way of stock trading, if you go out and buy Apple might soar tomorrow and crash the next day. It's the same thing with this. It will go up and down, but we want to minimize these variance spikes as much as possible, because then you're actually able to see profit come to realization. So by betting on things on the same game, you're exposing yourself to more risk. So the strategy is inherently risky, but if you apply these different things, it's not going to be so risky, and you're actually going to be able to claim profit a lot sooner. Another really good thing about positive expected value, contrast to arbitrage, is the edge that you're going to be able to get on regularly is going to be significantly higher than arbitrage. To stay under the radar, you only really want to be going for maybe 2 to 3% arbitrages. But with EV, it's really okay to go up to maybe 10%, and that won't really raise flags, because 10% deviation from the market, the bookmakers may be ignorant and just not realize that their line has messed up. And even if they do know that their line has messed up, it's not that big of a deal, because punters can have positive expected value. So they don't want to restrict people with positive expected value too soon, because they may be cutting off their losing customer base. Whereas an arbitrage, it's pretty definitive if you're betting on an arbitrage, because they will go out and search other bookmakers and determine whether they have arbitrages as well. So that's another really good benefit with positive expected value, is you can actually fly under the radar a lot longer than arbitrage, because it's just not so definitive in the bookmaker's eyes. There is a third option if you're not super sold on positive expected value, or if you do want a little bit of risk-free profit, is you can do a hybrid of the two. You can do arbitrage and you can also do EV at the same time, and it will wear on your accounts, but you kind of get the best of both worlds while not damaging them in the same way as would do with arbitrage. The best way to approach positive expected value is just really to think of it as a financial market, because that's what it is. Prices to bookmakers are what stocks are to Warren Buffett. It's just the same thing, up and down, and pricing it accordingly to make sure it fits the market. So if we treat it in the same way, if you only bet on things with edge, that is going to be a profitable strategy. It's in the same way if you could bet on things in the stock market and have edge. It's much harder to do that because all the hedge funds already extract all the value. But with sports betting, there is just so many operators offering different odds, and there's just not one centralized probability. We can derive a centralized probability across the market, but not one company is definitive. A lot of people say like Pinnacle is the best, and for the most part, Pinnacle is agreed upon to be the best bookmaker in terms of accuracy with their odds, but they still mess up. They have lower margin. There is more room for error. So you can use Pinnacle, but if you use them definitively, you're not going to have the most accurate model. So the best thing is to take a collection of them, and because we're taking a collection of them and we can see them all at different times, we're able to spot edge a lot easier. And I mean, there might be days where Sportsbet doesn't really mess up, but they might mess up on another day. Because we're bringing them all in at once, you're able to pinpoint them and find them and place them when they come up. And when you're picking your strategy that you want to follow, you should just think about how much profit you want long term and what risk that you're able to expose yourself. My recommendation is positive expected value if you are okay with a little bit of risk, because it is the most profitable. But if you don't want that, arbitrage is good. You just have to understand that you won't make as much money as what you would doing positive expected value. And like I said, there is the third option where you can do a combination of both. But if you're okay with a little bit of risk and waiting for the reward, positive expected value is the best strategy for people to use.